So between that period of where the buyer was holding 60% and the 3 years, what are the rights which we wanted as a selling promoters in the company? Because now at the shareholding and board level, they are controlling the company. So we need the reserved matters, the affirmative rights to ensure that no decisions are taken against our interest in the company. So how do you negotiate those decisions? Again, it's very interesting to understand the roles of both the parties in case of part acquisition. Like after 51% acquisition by a foreign acquirer, they still want the management to run the company for next few years. So who is said to be in control of the company? Is it the shareholder and the board, which are controlled by the acquirer, or the management or the selling promoters who are actually running the day-to-day operations? So just on this point, a lot of negotiations happen on each of the clauses, because the buyer says that you are running day-to-day management of the company, seller says you control the board and shareholders, you can chuck me out any day the way you want. So who gives reps and warranties for second and third closing? All those things become very important in case of part acquisition. And calculation of EBITDA in earn-out situations. As you know, in India we have a lot of earn-out deals which have started happening, where instead of paying full consideration on day one, you pay 65-70% on day one and balance 30% is spread across the next 2 to 3 years, depending on the EBITDA performance of the company. Now, how do you calculate EBITDA? A lot of time is spent on this because the accounting policies followed by the target company could be completely different from the accounting policies followed by the acquirer. What type of expenses will be considered, what type of incomes will be excluded. A lot of discussion goes in the EBITDA calculation. I'll quickly touch upon Nita has already touched upon few aspects, but quickly on the new takeover code, which we'll be seeing in the next few months. I think the most important part of the new takeover code, if you read the track report, which was published last year, I think the most important part was the methodology that they had adopted in coming out with the recommendations to the takeover board. They had followed the best practices. They read majority of the takeover boards of the world. They aligned the best practices, took comments from the public, and finally came out with one of the best pieces of takeover board which India has seen. So very important to do this, and it's almost flawless as far as the language and the way it has been drafted is concerned. If you see the direct tax code on the other hand, there is a lot of mess in the way it has been drafted. If you see on the first two sections, there is a definition of total income. Now you need to know what is total income to compute your income, and they say that total income shall be computed as per provisions of section 71 of direct tax code. And when you go to section 71, it talks about deduction for disabled people. Some of the other things, like in direct tax code, they have defined the term however. Is there any need to define the term however? On the other hand, they have left out some of the important terms like indirect transfer, on account of which we are seeing billions of dollars of litigation. So I think as far as track is concerned, they have done a fantastic job as compared to some of the other regulators. Threshold limits 15 to 25%, couple of consequences, very good for private equity buyout funds because they will be able to hold 24.99% stake. Could be dangerous for some of the promoters because their company might be targeted for hostile acquisitions to the extent of 25%. In cases where the promoter shareholding is very low in the company. Open offer size increased from 20 to 26%. It's a good move. Earlier, track had recommended full 100%, which was creating a lot of issues because the Indian banks cannot fund acquisitions as per the requirements under the banking laws. Concept of non-compete fees scrapped, she touched upon it. Delisting under takeover code, unfortunately, SEBI has not accepted that recommendation of track where delisting could be done under takeover code. This would have been extremely important if this would have gone through, because the current delisting guidelines are very onerous. onus of the board or the target company to recommend offers. Definition of control has been made very difficult to comply with, and reduction in timeline from 95 calendar days to 57 days. Now, just last couple of slides on merger control, combination regulations. As you can see now, from 1st of June 2011, India, all entities in India or outside India which has an effect on competition in India need to be notified to the Competition Commission. Competition regime is not something new across the world. A lot of countries have this regime. So the thresholds are on the asset or turnover of the acquirer entity or acquirer's group and the target. Interestingly, unlike in most of the jurisdictions, there is no transaction test. So even if you meet with the asset or turnover threshold and you acquire even one share of another company which meets with your threshold, you need to notify to the Competition Commission if you are not falling under any exemption limit. I'll just touch upon a couple of points now on account of paucity of time. The waiting period for once you file with the CCI, if you are falling within the threshold, is 30 days, 180 days and 210 days. So CCI will come out with its prima facie opinion on a transaction within 30 days. But that is not binding on them that they have to come out within 30 days. So if they cross the 30-day limit, then it could go up to 210 days. So you need to factor in the deal timelines, maximum up to 7 months in a worst case scenario for doing the deal. Some of the important points which there is a conflict of merger control provisions is with the takeover code. So for example, in takeover code you have the concept of that you cannot sell the assets of the target company for a period of 2 years. But what if the Competition Commission directs you to sell those assets because they are impacting the competition in India? How do you balance those things? 210 days extension for payment of open offer price to the shareholder. Will the acquirer have to buy or have to bear the interest cost for that additional period of 210 days for payment to the public shareholder? Insider trading, one of the requirements in the forms of form which has to be filed with the Competition Commission is to give information about the projected sales capacity of the target. Now that is a UPSI under insider trading regulation if that's a listed company. So if the target company or the acquirer submits this information to Competition Commission of India, which is a UPSI, is there going to be a code of conduct within the Competition Commission of India? Because all the employees will have those UPSI of the CCI. So is CCI going to have any code of conduct for insider trading to ensure that that information is not leaked or they don't trade based on that information? Some of the other things are, High Court merger process. If High Court clears your merger and then CCI comes with modification or vice versa, how do you address those issues? And last one, there is one exemption which is given a lot of respite to the industry is if the target company's turnover is less than 750 crore or the assets are less than 250 crore, then you don't need to file the notification with the Competition Commission of India. So that's it from my end. In case there are any questions, we'll be happy to take after Ram's presentation. Thanks.